Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and this is the first thing I'm going to do for February. It's February. It's the new month. So we got through the first month of the new year. Hopefully this year will be a lot better than next year. So this first tag I'm going to do is the New York Times by the book tag. I saw Steve Donahue doing this, and I think I've seen his previous time he did this tag, because I think I remember some of these questions from before. And I will either post the link to the original creator, or I will post maybe his video or something when I publish this. Okay, so question number 1: what book is on your nightstand? And I listed not only the books on my nightstand, but also the books on my coffee table here. But the books on my nightstand have been switching lately because I've kind of been on a very much like I was anxious about my books last night and wanting to read, thinking about what I wanted to read, and then feeling like, I want to actually finish the book, and I haven't finished anything, and then I took out a whole bunch of books because I was like, I need to have options, I guess, and that just made it worse. So whatever's on my nightstand and on my coffee table here tends to go back and forth. Currently, last night at 2 a.m. I read one of the short stories from this collection. This is Fitzgerald's short stories. I really like them, and so far this is the only other than The Great Gatsby, this is the only Fitzgerald writing work that I've really enjoyed, and I feel bad because I don't want this to be a situation where, I love The Great Gatsby, but then everything else is like, it can't compare to The Great Gatsby. So I still gotta read The Beautiful and the Damned, which is one of his longer works. So hopefully I'll love that. So this is what's on my nightstand right now. It used to be Valor that was on my nightstand originally, the second book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. And then sometimes it's been this second book, The Deadhouse Gates from Mal's Book of the Fallen. This kind of breaks one of my rules, though, because the print is minuscule. It's a mass market, so the print is tiny, and sometimes it can be hard to read, especially if I'm really tired. So those are some of the books, and then some of the other books are this one, which is the second book in the Rift War. I want to read this one because one of my goals this year is to make sure I get through some of my series within the year, or at least, put a dent in some of my longer series. So this is the second one. And then some, as far as the non-nightstand books, the coffee is one of them, is this one, Dr. Thorne, the third book in the Barshutshire series, which introduces a whole bunch of new characters and is more of a romance story. That one's more on my nightstand, on my coffee stand. But those are all those books. And then question number 2: what was the last truly great book you read? And I ended up going with one of the books from last year because, I feel like I've only had 1 month in the year, and I did really enjoy some of the books I read, but I don't know if I'll call them great yet. I don't know if I feel that they're great. So I picked this one, Tooth and Claw. First of all, this edition is so cute. I love this edition. It's a naked hardback, still has a beautiful cover, and it's mass market size. Maybe even, actually no, it might be bigger than mass market now that I think about it. But I love this, is so cute. So basically this is taking a Jane Austen novel plot. But the main characters are dragons. So I thought that concept is so cool, and the idea of dragon lore mixed with the politics of the Regency period and society rules, and it is kind of Pride and Prejudice retelling, as Jean's Bookish Thoughts had said, but I feel like it's so much more than that. There's political drama, there's a court case that develops, and then there's the one sister getting involved in abolitionism, and there's fighting for the rights of society, deals with society drama, and it's so much more than just a romance. It's so fun, and I feel like if you like fantasy historical fiction like I do, then I think you would like this, especially if you're also a fan of classics, particularly Jane Austen. Um, but yeah, this is fun. I really love this. Okay, so next, question number 3 is, if you could meet any writer, dead or alive, who would it be and what would you want to know? And I don't, about the second part, the whole what would you want to know, I don't know what I would want to know. I would just want to hang out with them and talk to these authors. And this is a mixture of more contemporary authors and then a lot of authors that are, classic writers that are dead. So I said Jane Austen, Kate Morton, who's a contemporary author, Stephen King, another contemporary author, Charles Dickens, and F. Scott Fitzgerald, and the Brontes. All these authors I love to hang out with, just talk to them. I don't know what specifically I would want to know from them, but I would just want to talk to them and hang out with them. I love all their work, and it'd just be fun. It would be a very eclectic group of people, that's for sure, if they were all together at the same time. And Elizabeth Gaskell, she's on here too. She can be friendly with Jane and hang out with Jane. Okay, and then question number 4 is, what book might we be surprised to find on your shelves? And I selected a few books that I feel like would be a surprise. I don't know if truly they would be, but these lovely classics. So Paradise Lost by John Milton, which is quite a bit of a surprise. I feel like not people would be really surprised. Especially because this is a very challenging read, even though it's just a poem technically. It's an epic poem. There's so much going on in this poem that when I'm reading, I've read it, some of it, not all of it, and it is kind of confusing at times, and I don't totally comprehend everything that's said in here. I get the basic idea of what it's about, and then, also the Oedipus plays, from Jean's Bookish Thoughts has talked about these. I don't know a lot about them except for I know there's incest in this. I think Oedipus has a relationship with a family member, like a mom or something. Yeah, it's like, eek. But then I also think it's good. It's a classic. And I'm always up for trying new things, and that's what these books kind of represent, something completely different for me. And then, of course, Homer's duology, although I don't know if you can consider this a duology or not, but the Iliad, which I feel like you should probably read first. It's about the Trojan War, so if you watch the movie Troy with Orlando Bloom, Diane Kruger, Brad Pitt, I can't remember the name of the actor who plays Eric Bana. I don't remember who the other actors are, but if you've seen that movie, then this is basically the story of that, like what probably inspired that movie. And I don't know if this is good translation, but I don't want to find out until I've actually read it. Because then I spent them, if it's a bad translation, I'll feel like I spent the money for nothing, then I feel like I'll have to although I got this from the roast office, so it wasn't that expensive. And I'll feel like, I should get the better translation. Which, yeah, that's probably important, but you know what, this is not for academic purposes. This is fun. I'm just wanting to try this out. And then this is the Odyssey. First, I love this edition. I want to get more of these cloth-bound ones. But this is about one of the Greeks, Odysseus, and him going home and taking his one long road trip back. And I think it's 9 years or something, 9 or 10 years. And actually, one of the characters, Circe, the author Madeline Miller wrote her story. and this is about her. This is not about her, but Circe is her story, the witch that Odysseus meets, and he's stuck on her island with her. And, she, all we know about her is she's a witch, and she turns his men into pigs. And traps them on the island. And this is the story. And what's really, and I was very apprehensive, but when I opened it and read it, it reads like a novel. It reads like prose. I was thinking it would be another epic poem that I would have a hard time getting into, and it reads like a novel. Just maybe a little bit of a fairy tale-esque feel to it. And I gotta say, Odysseus is a little shit. That's how I feel about him. He's a dumbass. But I did enjoy it when I was reading. I just haven't picked it up since. But I've been meaning to, and I think I might make this summer more of adventure. See the adventure season, the summer time, and read this and read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. I might read that one, and Treasure Island. I'll read that one as well. Just read some adventure stories during the summer. Okay, so I don't know if that would be a surprise or not, but it was the best I could do for that question. Okay, so question number 5 is, how do you organize my library? Personal library is done by genre. I have the classics separated, even though the classics aren't a genre. I still kind of separate them. So it's mostly fantasy, horror, aka my Stephen King shelf, part of the shelf, with a few other genres like historical fiction and stuff on there, and then my shelves, two of my shelves are over there, and then my new one is over here. And then some of my classics do start over on that shelf on the corner, but most of them are over here on the new shelf. So technically it's not a genre, but I keep them separate. And I think and then question number 6, what book have you always meant to read and haven't gotten around to yet? Okay, so originally I was saying War and Peace, but I have kind of started that one, so it technically doesn't count, but I've been meaning to continue it. One of the books I should say is Don Quixote. I should have grabbed it when I decided to refilm this, because I had just did this and I didn't like what I did in that video. But yeah, I originally had this as my answer, but then again, this is kind of a cheat because I did start this book. So books like Don Quixote is one of the ones. Wilkie Collins is some of his books. Here's the problem. I get all excited and I'll start a book that size, and then I get sidetracked. So it feels like I haven't started it yet. And then the second part of that question is anything you feel embarrassed never to have read. And I disagree with that. I feel like you shouldn't be embarrassed if you have not read certain books. Even the ones that are meant to be about important issues, even if you haven't gotten to those yet, you might get to them, but I don't think you should, even if you haven't gotten, you'll probably get to them. If you're interested, you'll get to them, but you shouldn't feel pressured or embarrassed if you haven't got to yet, if you haven't read it yet. It doesn't matter what other people think. Yeah, I struggle with that too. I definitely struggle a lot with it. I'm not insane about that, and I will worry about that. Even though no one ever says anything to me, I constantly would hear about Lord of the Rings, and finally I was like, okay, even if no one's actually saying anything, I know that there are gatekeepers in the fantasy community, so I was like, I'm going to listen to an audiobook so that if anyone ever does say anything to me, I can say, I've listened to the audiobook, so I've taken in the original text. I may not have stared and read the page myself, but I have listened to the audiobook. So yeah, that story's so that is so Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm not perfect. There are times when I feel embarrassed, and there are times when I feel pressure to read certain books, like Little Women. Like, I started that and I was bored with the book. But I love the 1994 movie, and now I have the new one, the 2019 movie, and I love that one. Um, like, I enjoy the movies, but I don't want to, I don't want to sit and read a book that's going to take me, like, several weeks. I'm just not interested in the book, but I do feel a little bit of pressure with the way people talk about the book. And it's like, oh, you love the movie, then you should love the book. And I just remember that one author's name. I was trying to think of an author. When I was filming this previously, I was trying to think of an author's name for another question on here. And now I remember it. Figures. And, but anyway, so, yeah, but really, I shouldn't let it get to me, and neither should you. You shouldn't feel embarrassed if you have not read every single top 100, every single book on the top 100 books, or top 10, or top 5 books you should read, Read what you want to read. Reading should be, like, even if I give my friend Terry a hard time, it's not because I'm about what I don't have a problem with what she reads. I just, I want to share her books, and I know that I can't share my books with her because I don't know if she'll like all of the books that I read. She's very particular about what she likes in books. And it's more that I just want to, it comes from a place of wanting to share my books with her, and I can't do that. And I know I always talk about that. And, I mean, it's the best example of me, it's the best example that kind of fits the idea of, the whole this topic about, feeling obligated to read certain books, and you shouldn't. Just as my friend should not feel obligated to listen to me all the time. I mean, just because I recommend a book to her doesn't mean she has to read it, or doesn't mean she likes what she likes. And so you shouldn't feel ashamed or embarrassed if you hadn't read certain books. It's like, it's no one's business but yours what you read. It's only your business. So who cares if people make you feel, but I know it's not easy to ignore that, because people can be mean. And sometimes you can't always tell if someone's just being funny or being sarcastic. Even if, you're watching a video, sometimes you still can't tell, like, even if you're not just reading someone's statement that they typed, even if you're watching, you hear their tone and stuff, if you don't know the person, you might not know if certain tones mean sarcasm when they're like, I can't believe you didn't read that book. And it's just, like, so I don't have an answer for this. I don't think you should feel embarrassed about not reading not reading certain books. Okay, so question number 7. Disappointing, overrated, just not good. What book did you feel you were supposed to like but didn't? Do you remember the last book you put down without finishing it? So a book that I feel like, I hate when I get messages while I'm in the middle of filming because then it just gets me sidetracked. But a book that I feel like I was supposed to like but didn't was Thomas Hardy's, and that was the author that just popped in my head. Thomas Hardy's Far from the Maddening Crowd. I was bored. I did not like Bathsheba's character. She was annoying and made a lot of dumb decisions in my opinion. And she was also very selfish. And I'm all for bad characters, I love Scarlett O'Hara. She's my girl. And she's a horrible person. And she's just mean. But I was also compelled by the story, and I was not compelled by the story. Like, I have to be into the story. If the main character is not likable, I have to at least be into the story. And I was not into Far from the Maddening Crowd. It's just basically this woman who was given a farm, and all props for showing this woman running this farm. That's great. That story was all about that. But it has, like, she's all adamant that she's not going to get married, and these 3 guys are after her, and one of them finally she gives into him because he's so charming and nice and everything. When he turns out he's a scoundrel, and it's all about farming, and I was just bored with that book. I'm sorry. I feel like I was supposed to like it and I didn't. I liked Jude the Obscure, but I'm not going to read any more Thomas Hardy. I mean, I know maybe 2 books isn't enough, but it's like, this is my reading life, so I shouldn't feel, going back to the last thing I talked about, that I shouldn't feel pressured when it comes to my reading. I should be able to enjoy my reading. And then some of the other ones, I actually DNF'd two other, I also DNF'd 2 books this year so far, and that's Evelina and Jacques the Fatalist. Evelina, I was just kind of bored. I don't think I really like stories about women coming out into society, because all they do is go out to balls and talk with people and socialize, and I don't know how I feel about the epistolary format. I mean, I agree, it's very, it's cool. It's this concept of telling a story. It's very unique, but at the same time, like, bored. I was bored with it, and I feel like it also limits your perspective, because you only get the perspective whatever is, like, I'm all fine for I get the whole miscommunication thing, I'm fine with that, but I feel like the reader themselves needs to get the whole story, or at least has the hint of the whole story. And letters, I think, take that away from you. And then I just was bored. I didn't really care for Evelina's character, and I couldn't get into it. And then Jacques the Fatalist, I did not like the narrator. I thought he was annoying. The main character was annoying, and not a lot was happening. Like, I can get past annoying characters as long as there's something happening, something not just like an actual, like, some engaging plot that, keeps me at the edge of my seat, or it keeps me wanting to know, okay, what's going to happen next to these characters. And it was just these guys trekking through the woods, sharing stories and going on adventures. Yeah, they'll run into shenanigans and stuff, but it wasn't enough for me. And like I said, I was annoyed by the narrator. I think when he addressed the audience, I know that he was trying to make a point with that, but he was just condescending and arrogant, and I just was like, he was like, ooh, I can do this, I can say this happened, but this is not what really happened. He's just, like, I'm fine with the narrator talking to the reader. Like, I like Anthony Trollope and him talking to the reader, but he does it in a more comforting way, and a more, like, explaining the history of it, and then maybe assuring you later on in the story that, oh, everything's going to be fine in the end. And maybe that's spoilerly, that kind of spoils a little bit, but it also is a bit of a comfort, especially for people that get anxious especially if it's like romance or something where they want to know their favorite couple is going to be okay. Sometimes people will cheat and have to read ahead, so the narrator reassuring you, oh, everything's going to be fine, is very helpful and very, very comforting. Okay, so next is, okay, what kinds of what kinds of stories are you drawn to? Any you stay clear of? I stay clear of Veronica. I've tried it. Can't stand it. I don't want to read about someone's sex life and their kinky sex life. If you are into that, or if that's, no disrespect to you, I just don't want to read about it. That's why I will never read 50 Shades of Grey, and I was very angry and annoyed with, Anne Rice. She writes under a different name. Her, Sleeping Beauty trilogy. It was basically the idea of Sleeping Beauty being rescued by the prince, but it turns out the prince has a sex slave industry, and him and his mom, and Beauty is a sex slave. And I did not like it. I don't know why I read it. Like, the only reason I wanted to continue on, was just to see Beauty escaping that crap. And just, I mean, the typist, it's just, I did not like it. And I'm kind of iffy about war stories. Like, I like fantasy stories that are about war. I'll read those because it has the whole magic and creatures and magical creatures and stuff. It's not too close to home. I mean, and I will read historical war books, but I prefer the ones that are kind of lean towards the home front, where you see the people that are left behind and how they're dealing with it. Like, I don't really want to read, I don't want to read, like, contemporary or historical where we're on the battlefield. But I will read, like, fantasy versions of it. I will read that because it has an extra kick to it, an extra spiciness to it. And, like, what I look for is, like, I look for a plot that is interesting to me and exciting and intriguing, and I always go for fantasy, but then there's other genres like historical. I think that's more of, we like certain people like certain time periods in history. And then, there's sometimes where books genres that I say I'm not into, I will make exceptions, like like romance. I will make exceptions for certain romance books. Like I love Jane Austen, but I also am not, but since I'm kind of picky about the romance, I don't really like romance recommendations because, I guess if you guys ever shared like a recommendation with me of romance, I would probably look it up on Goodreads. But I always feel like when people recommend books to me, unless I'm watching just a recommendation video, people recommend books to me, then I feel obligated. But then a part of me rebels and doesn't want to. It's like, oh, just because you think I'll like it doesn't mean I will. I need to stumble on the book on my own. I need to choose to read it on my own. It's particularly, especially if it's a genre that I'm not a huge fan of. So like I said, I just need to be interested in the plot. I am definitely a plot-driven reader, and I can't pinpoint specific things. Like I said, my go-to genre is always fantasy. Even in contemporary stories, when I think about fan fiction stories, there's always a fantasy element. So, of course, those stories will never get written down. I stopped writing fan fiction. Okay, question number 9. If you could require the president to read a book, what would it be? I don't have an answer for that. I don't presume to know what would be a good book for the president to read, and I don't think any of the books I read would. I don't know. Maybe there's one out there, but I don't have an answer for that question. Okay, and what do you plan to read next? Well, I am definitely a mood reader, so this might change, but as of right now, I definitely want to focus on more of a theme about love because Valentine's Day is this month. Like I said, I'm reading Cinderella's Dead. I also want to finish this book. I'm going to read this book this month, and I ended up starting it in June, towards the end of June, because, this is a little bit chunkier than The Warden or Barchester Towers. Like I said, last night I did read a short story, which I'm going to put on my list, and I can happily say that I read a book finally and finished one. And Emma is another one I need to read. There's a few buddy reads, like Brothers of Karamazov, Rebecca, Ruin of Kings, The Dreamcatcher. Brothers Karamazov is one of the ones that is this month. That is actually going on this month. But there are some buddy reads that I was planning on participating in last month, like Rebecca and Ruin of Kings, and I didn't get to it. I got sidetracked. Oh, and Dreamcatcher. So the one that I planned to read, that was a buddy read for last month, and I did not get around to it. So I was like, no, these are not in me with someone else buddy reads. So I'm not like letting any person down, but there are buddy reads that with like two buddies already reading the book, or it was a group of people reading the book, and I wanted to be part of it, but then I got sidetracked. So it's not like anyone was counting on me or anything, but I wanted to participate. I was disappointed in myself, but I was also not surprised. And then there are books like Baptism of Fire and Emma and Dr. Thorne that are not. Oh, and Magician Master, the sequel to Magician Apprentice, is another one. That one read this month. So I'm kind of going out with a love theme, but I'm also reading books that are fantasy. But there are books that I'm still thinking about that I want to read, I want to pick up, but they're longer, like The Count of Monte Cristo, The Blade Itself, Blood of Crimson, the 2 new books I got that I'm thinking about. It's like now I want to read those books right now, and I'm trying to wait a little while. So yep, those are my reads that's what I'm planning on reading next, or I'm thinking about reading next, but that might change because I am a mood reader, and right now I've been feeling very anxious and at getting one done and getting a book read, and I know it's not about getting it done. It's more just enjoying what you're reading. I am. It's just get anxious sometimes. You know, I think I want to feel like I've accomplished something and have finished a book, you know? And so that's why I decided last night, the last minute, to read some short stories from Fitzgerald's works. But I only got to one because it was like 2 a.m. So I decided to read. I read that one. I might have been able to get away with reading another one, but I just decided to read just the one. Okay, so, by the way, sorry if I sounded tired, but the tiredness just hit me, so I think I'm needing something to drink, like coffee or something. But anyway, that's that is the New York Times by the book tag. So if you are interested in doing this tag, please feel free to do this tag. I hope you are wearing your mask, continuing to wear your mask, staying 6 feet apart from people, and washing your hands, and as well as using hand sanitizer. If you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already, and see when I post new videos. I hope you are doing well, and I hope you are being kind to everyone, or as kind as you can be. All right, bye.